Hi, welcome to Pasquini Coffee Company. My name is Bezzera and Pasquini, and today I'll be showing you how to adjust the joystick, steam, and water tap on your Bezzera or Pasquini espresso machine. For today's video, I'm going to be using the Bezzera Crema, but do note that this has the exact same steam and water joysticks as the Pasquini Livia G4 and any other Bezzera branded machine that has joystick operated steam and water taps. Joystick operated steam and water tap simply means that this acts like a joystick and pivots in any direction, as opposed to a rotary tap, which has a handle that you twirl from left to right. If your machine has a joystick tap, what we're going to show today is how to prevent it from leaking. Oftentimes we get calls in which, even when the machine is on and not being used, steam leaks out the steam tip of the machine passively throughout the day. What this means is that the joystick on here is too tight and it's pressing the actuator down, causing a slight steam leak to come out of the machine. This is a relatively common issue that is super easy to repair and remedy with just a few tools and a few minutes of your time. I'll be using the Crema as our example today, but for exposed machines that have the exposed joystick and steam hot water taps, you can go ahead and apply the same instructions to those. If you have a machine that's passively leaking steam when you leave it on throughout the day and steam is coming out of the steam tip, then more often than not, this is simply too tight and just needs to be loosened slightly. Ideally, when a machine is set correctly, there's still a little bit of play in both the steam and hot water taps, and they are not completely rigid. In order to adjust these, I'll go ahead and show you, and you'll need a few simple tools. If your machine has a face shroud on it, such as this machine here, you will need either a Phillips screwdriver or a 3mm Allen key. If your machine has exposed steam and hot water taps, such as a Bezzera Magica, Bezzera Strega, or Matrix, then all you need is an adjustable wrench. For these particular machines with shrouds, you may need the adjustable wrench in addition to the 3mm Allen key or the Phillips screwdriver, or depending on how thin or thick your adjustable wrench is, you might need a slim 22mm wrench in order to get and loosen the nut correctly. Step one, in order to loosen the nut here, in order to adjust it correctly, is to remove the top cover from the machine. You can simply take any small object, I'm going to use the 3mm Allen key, insert it into one of the holes and lift up. This will cause the top plate to come off. Simply take it off and set it aside. Once you have the top plate off, there's another security plate on top of the machine. Depending on the year your machine was made, it'll have either a 3mm Allen key or a Phillips head screwdriver or a screw on it. On this particular machine, we have a 3mm Allen key, so go ahead and take your 3mm Allen and just unscrew both the retention screws. Let's go ahead and set the screws aside in a little bowl so they don't get lost. And using the same 3mm Allen key or your screwdriver, depending on your configuration of your machine, lift the retention plate or security plate out of the machine set aside. Once you have the security plate removed from the top of the machine, using your crescent wrench or 22mm wrench to loosen the lock ring will allow you to adjust the steam knob on the machine. Most of the time a crescent wrench should be able to work, but if they are on the thicker side, then it would be beneficial to get a thin profile 22mm wrench for easier access to the retention ring. Simply place the wrench in place and give it a few turns to the left to loosen the lock nut. Once the lock nut is loosened slightly and you have some play in the steam wand, you can loosen the retention cup on the front of the machine by hand. And go ahead and just loosen it all the way until it comes off. This exposes the actuator pin on the steam valve, and this is what's being depressed, causing the steam leak to happen passively. In order to verify that the steam leak is caused by over tightening of the joystick, turn the machine back on while the machine has the steam knob removed. If the leak continues even without the joystick attached, that means that the inside seals and gaskets are broken and need to be replaced. If the steam leak stops when you remove the joystick, it means that simply the joystick was not adjusted correctly and needs to be readjusted. If once you turn the machine back on, you determine that it is the joystick causing the issues and the steam leak stopped, power the machine back down, unplug it, let it cool off, so that way you can retighten this without burning yourself. Once you've determined that the leaking is caused by the actuator and not an internal gasket leak, you'll begin to retighten the joystick back onto the steam wand actuator. Go ahead and tighten this down until the joystick becomes fairly stiff. Make sure there's a little bit of play. As you can see here, there's almost no play at all, and if I were to tighten this back down, chances are it would leak again. So loosen it until you have a little bit of wiggle room in the joystick. This amount is usually acceptable and will cause a fairly good seal and won't cause any extra leaking that you don't want to happen. Once you have it in place, take your wrench and retighten the lock ring behind the machine. Make sure the lock ring is nice and snug so that way it doesn't come loose from the front of the machine. Once you have this tightened back in place, before reassembling the machine, turn the machine back on to see that the leak has gone away. If the leak still persists, that means that this is too tight and has to be loosened further. Once you confirm that the leak has stopped and gone through the trial and errors to ensure that it is in the correct setting, you can go ahead and reassemble the machine. If you have the steam leak problem on a machine with exposed joystick, steam, and water taps, you can do the same process as shown on the Bezzera Crema in this video. However, it's a lot easier on these exposed models. Simply just take a crescent wrench, loosen this lock ring here, unscrew it a little bit, and then begin to unscrew the joystick assembly on the front. Same testing procedures applies to these machines as it does the other one. Turn the machine back on with this removed. If the leak persists, that means the internal valve needs to be rebuilt. If the leak stops, it means that the adjustment was wrong, and you can begin to reinsert the joystick onto it until it's relatively stiff, but still has some play in it. As you can see here, it's really, really tight, and this will probably leak. So go ahead and unscrew it just a bit so you have a little bit of play. I'd say about this much is okay. Once you have it in place, retighten the lock ring down and you're done. Go ahead and turn the machine back on and see if the leak has gone away. If the leak still persists, then that means you have to make this a little bit looser. Thank you for watching our video today on how to adjust your steam and hot water actuators on your Pasquini or Bezzera joystick machines. To see this and other tech tip videos or other useful information, hit the subscribe button below and visit our website pasquini.com for more information.